talk to us about when we're thinking of ChatGPT, when we're thinking of Replica and all the innovations around chatbots and AI, are we up to speed with the ethical ramifications here?
It's a very good question. I would say that in general, we have continued to not do the best of jobs of communicating the limitations and risks these kinds of technologies can raise for people in society. These are very exciting technologies. I think there's no doubt to say that generative models are raising all kinds of exciting applications, from poem writing to code generation, but they are not magic. They're built on a hidden process of labor that are oftentimes relying on exploited and underpaid workers, and they can have very serious impacts on people in society that need to be better communicated. So it's critical that as developers of these technologies, as policymakers, that we create the conditions for these technologies to be beneficial to people in society. That's something we certainly can see these tech companies doing a bit more of.
Yeah, it feels like OpenAI, for example, which is behind ChatGPT, is very much trying to have the narrative of how do we ethically introduce this, how do we ensure that it's iterating at a safe pace. But what more can be done? Where in the world, for example, is working well with private, with public, with academics, with governments, for example?
It's a very good question. One thing I think that we can see more of is initial consideration of the potential uses or misuses of these technologies and building in safeguards that are meaningful to prevent those misuses. So to give OpenAI credit, when they released ChatGPT, they were very careful to put in place safeguards to prevent certain types of toxic or harmful content or dangerous content from being shared. But as you could see, these kinds of safeguards could very quickly be overcome. If you typed in the appropriate response, you could get ChatGPT to give you instructions on how to make a Molotov cocktail or how to hotwire a car. And even more concerning is that it's not just a story of ChatGPT. Even if ChatGPT and OpenAI put in these kinds of safeguards, other types of companies creating generative models may not do the same. So I think a few things are needed. One is there needs to be more cross-industry collaboration, communication, and discussion about the kinds of risks these technologies pose. There needs to be more discussion and clarity of the kinds of standards that need to be met in order for these technologies to be released safely. And there also needs to be a bit more clarification and communication with members of the public about those impacts. I'm thinking particularly there of educators and creators who are most impacted by these technologies at the moment. And lastly, we need really strong and stringent regulation. We do a lot of public attitude surveying and research in our institute, and one of the most clear messages that comes across is people want regulation for AI. They want to feel safe. They want to have some sense that government has a grip on these technologies and is putting in place the right safeguards to keep them safe.
Andrew, the big news headline that I saw on Thursday today in the world of AI was the FBI Director Christopher Wray saying he's deeply concerned about China's research in the field of AI and in its AI program and what it might use AI for. An independent research group like yours, do you see what China's doing in the field of AI as a worry? I think what the FBI are talking about here, and broadly what others have talked about, is the military applications of AI that could pose a threat to society.
It's a concerning development, certainly, whenever you are kind of rushing into the use of AI for military and autonomous weapons. But it's important to acknowledge that's not simply a China problem. Many militaries around the world are developing these kinds of technologies, again, oftentimes without much consideration for the kinds of race dynamics that doing so can create between other countries. So in the UK and the US, in other parts of the world, these kinds of autonomous weapon systems are being developed. There are, as I understand it, some excellent work being done to develop ethical codes of practice by groups like the Ministry of Defense. But it is important to acknowledge that those are not risks unique to China, that those are very serious ethical and legal considerations that need to be seriously considered and addressed on the international level.